Hello everyone, this is CryptoDiffer AMA session, and today we have a pretty interesting project to look at. It's a Soar. Soar is going to provide drone users with an opportunity to monetize their content. Actually, these guys are going to create the global super map, or how they call it, Google Map on steroids. So today we have guys right from Australia in studio. And hello guys, here we have Amir Farhan, CEO of Soar Project, Loy, lead blockchain scientist, and Darren Smith, geospatial expert. Hello.
G'day mate, how are you going?
Yeah, we're fine. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to ask our questions, the questions we had from our project. And first of all, I just about Soar, but could you tell us what it's all about and in more details about?
Yeah, look, I think I'd start to say hello and welcome, and thank you for the audience's time, and also we appreciate this opportunity for this AMA. Look, Soar is a very interesting project because the seeds that for Soar have been sown a long time ago, and we've just built up now to an incredible product that we're launching for the rest of the world. So Soar is, the best way to think of Soar is a decentralized supermap of the world that sits on the blockchain. We want to be effectively Google Maps on the blockchain. And although the initial stages of this product are drones, our system is actually highly evolved and actually uses satellite imaging, and it uses aerial imaging, which we'll probably talk about throughout this AMA as well, and get that organised. But you know, we want to make, during this AMA, we'll make some parallels to Google Maps, the differences between Soar and Google Maps, and also elaborate how everyday individuals with drone content all the way to organisations and companies that have got access to satellite imagery can all use the Soar platform.
Perfect. Okay, gotcha. And a couple words about background of your team. It's always important for crypto industry to feel how you're sure about your background.
Yeah, look, I'll start with myself. I've got obviously a lot of satellite imaging, remote sensing, and earth science experience. Getting now close to 20 years worth of experience. I've worked in different technologies, ranging from satellite imagery all the way to drones and aerial systems. Projects that are involved in the mining sector all the way to defence and military applications. So I'm usually the person that comes up with the crazy ideas in this space, and I've got an incredible, wonderful team around me. Unfortunately, the rest of the team couldn't be here today, and we probably can't fit them on this couch, but we've got an incredible board as well, which comes from the United States Air Force. We've got people from, senior blockchain advisors from other very exciting blockchain companies and investors as well. And Darren, over to you as a geospatial mapping expert.
Yeah, well, thanks, Amir. Yeah, my background is largely in using tools out in the field to acquire geophysical data. And along my path, I also developed some of my own unmanned vehicles for data acquisition. These were boats, but they were drones. They sort of moved off on their own. And I also have experience as well in mapping applications and as well applications as a whole, integrated applications. So it's pretty exciting. I get to use sort of all the experience that I have in this current role.
Great. So my name's Chris. I'm a programmer, have been since I was a very little kid. I've been the lead developer of geospatial mapping software for about 5 years now. I've been working with Amir for 5 years as well. So
it's been an exciting time for you.
Yeah. So my experience is in frontline developing and leading teams to develop really quality products.
We've just one thing which I think is really important, Blake, for us to actually highlight as well is our team comes from multidisciplinary backgrounds, and the reason why we've done that on purpose is to make sure that the products that we create can be used by everybody. Personally, for myself, if I've got a background, in making applications for, say, mining, environmental, or even military. We've got people such as Darren and Chris, which come from different multidisciplinary backgrounds, and they do a lot of value add, because really we want to make SOAR applicable to every human being in the planet. That's our end game and our end result we want to be.
And like Amir mentioned before, there's only 3 of us on the couch here, but we do have a fairly large team.
Yeah.
I've got 2 really talented developers working with me, Marek and Alistair, that are building up the product.
And Darren's got a team of mapping experts under him as well.
Got you. Thank you for answers. So, yeah, your plans are really global, and you're going to cover like all continents, many industries. And so the first question we had when we started analyzing your project is that actually there are many specialized companies in every industry, like agriculture, construction, transportation. All these companies, they have B2B relationship with their clients, pretty close relationship in some situations. How are you going to compete with them? How are you going to motivate their clients to switch from their current partnerships to work with SOAR?
Well, look, that's a really good question, Vlad. And I think first of all, we are not a competitor to what we see as these existing companies which you mentioned. There's companies out there such as Drone Deploy, Propeller, I think you probably even know a whole bunch of other companies. These companies are specialized B2B companies. Our product is not necessarily for the B2B. In fact, we actually rely on these companies to prepare their data and use their software to put onto SOAR. SOAR is a platform. Imagine SOAR being Microsoft Windows, and other content providers will be able to use that platform for their own purposes and to use our platform to whatever their imagination allows. That could be building content for, say, government. It could be agricultural, environmental. Actually encourage, and we're actually in the processes of forming relationships and partnerships with the organizations that you just mentioned, in enabling their content base and their user base to actually onboard onto SOAR platform. I mean, Darren can add a bit onto this as well. However, one of the key factors here is that 80% of all data that's created via satellites, aerial imaging, and drones actually only ever gets used once. That's because it's used specifically for one area in the world. And the world is a very big place. There's a lot of content there that never gets used more than once. What we're allowing for all these organizations to be able to access this content in one particular platform, and that is SOAR. I guess, Darren, from a mapping expert background, maybe you can provide a little bit of a follow-on from that.
Yeah, well, sure. Drones are definitely a disruptive element in so many industries. And they've really opened the door to a lot of people in terms of what they can do with drones. And even for an example, like the drone that you see here in front of me can be picked up, bought down at the local office supply store. And there's apps online that users can grab for programming them to go and do pre-programmed flight paths to then go about and start doing mapping. So, with a little bit of research and a little bit of know-how and learning your drone, you can be out doing mapping on your own. And so in a way, they sort of give opportunity for individuals to build up their skills. And, you look at the drone industry, and there is some conglomeration going on even here locally. There's some companies that are joining forces to build together. But I think that because the industry is changing, people are still trying to sort out what's going to work. And so when you look at things in a new way, which is what we're trying to do, we're trying to put control in terms of mapping and data acquisition and as well making money with drones back into the hands of sort of the avid user or even the hobbyist who wants to monetize their investment.
Okay, gotcha. So you're going to be intermediary service, for drone users and companies, so also B2B, like a platform for them to communicate. Okay, it's clear from the point of view, but drone users, how many drones are there on Earth now?
The numbers vary, but from the business research that we've done, we think that currently there's probably around about 11 million drones in the world at the moment. And out of those, so by 2020, we think that number is going to double, actually. And they're expecting it's going to be over 22 million drones available. And half of those drones, more than half actually, are going to be drones that are for content creation, such as imagery, video, analysis, and surveillance. So we really want to be able to tap into that. Now, I don't know the specific for different countries, but I do know that in America, for example, there is over 50,000 licensed drone operators out there as well. So, different types of licenses that Darren will probably shed some light into as well.
Okay, so 20 million, huge number. And so you need to address people. What's the marketing plan in details? How are you going to reach these drone holders? How to use Google Ads or some other methods? And after they upload content to Soar, what's going to happen next?
Look, I think this is also a leading question for one of the answers which I gave before, and I'm sure that Darren and Chris in particular can tap into this as well. But the marketing strategy for this is going back to the answer that I gave. About 80% of the content is only ever used once. All we have to do is to tell people that a system and a platform exists that can take their imagery that they're only used once and they can use it multiple times. So one of the easiest ways to do that actually is we've been starting already going on Instagram, and there's a lot of incredible drone imagery from all over the world. And we've contacted these people and said, look, your Instagram, your photo of the drone image is great on Instagram. It's got 5,000 likes. Great. But that 5,000 likes, it's 5,000 likes. You're not getting any money for it. But B, what if that imagery that you've got in Instagram could be put over the top of a super map for a lot of other people to use, and it could actually build something really great? Once we do that, people become interested and they go, wait a minute, my content could be used to go around the entire world. And then once they see that, they see the value proposition. Internally in the company, what we do is one of the marketing messages that we try to use that we'll be doing for Google Ads and partnerships and exchanges and PR is the mapping of the world. I mean, Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've put into place is a market intervention tool built into the smart contracts themselves, and we call this Sky Bounty. The pitch that we're sending to people is to basically become the next Columbus, become the new Columbus. So the way that works essentially is we can place sky map tokens down on particular parts of the world, and the drone operators that are able to get to that place the quickest and take the best imagery from that area are able to collect those sky map tokens.
So that's mapping the world. So what was that tagline? Because some of the viewers might not know who Columbus is, for instance. So what's a way of simplifying that? And Darren, please, throw in there as well, because the words that we'd like to say people is help us map the world with your data. Mm-hmm. That's effectively the line that we use a lot. I mean, am I correct to say that, guys? Yeah.
Gotcha. So, okay, so person uploads content to Soar. It's the data about the content creator is in blockchain and is getting monetized. Everyone who uses this data pays in tokens. Yeah, do I understand right? The economics of the process.
Sure.
Okay.
Chris, do you want to maybe add a little bit?
Yeah, no, that's accurate. Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What's about scaling? How many drones do you have now in usage, and what's your plan in case of successful ICO? How many drones are going to involve in a year and 2 years?
Our goal is to probably have, I guess in terms of content, we don't look at it in terms of how many drones. We say in terms of content. We envisage, and we've got partnerships already coming out in the next couple of weeks. We've got a significant partnership that will be announced next week as well. And one of the most ones is with different satellite imaging and aerial imaging companies for drones itself, we really want to have, our goal is by the time we do our ICO, having close to 5,000 drone images on our testnet. And within the next 2 or 3 years, we really want to have at least 100,000 drone images in the first year and potentially even 300,000 in our second year of drone content. That is we see that as a very linear progression, but in fact, it could actually be double or even triple those numbers as well. So on our system right now, we've contacted just over 600 drone operators, and from our surveys that we've done and our market testing, there's almost probably about 1.5 terabytes of data that these people have. I mean, Darren, maybe you could shed some light on how much content the average drone operator has.
Well, certainly. Like for example, this drone.
This one here?
This one here. If I fly 4 15-minute missions and I time them at 15 minutes so it doesn't crash and I have plenty of reserve, but that can generate about 350 images. And if you were to estimate each image is probably 3 to 4 megabytes, so that's say 100 to 150 times that 3. So that's almost that's a third of a terabyte, 300 to 400 megabytes of data acquired within an hour. And so it's the amount of data that can be acquired by drones is huge.
Yeah.
It's even with just one operator. And what we find with operators and the amount of images that they acquire is like Amir says, 80% of that might only get used once, and then there's an even higher percentage of that imagery that's just going to go sit on a disk somewhere, on a hard disk in a closet. Yeah.
The other thing is, Vlad, I think, which is really probably interesting for our audience to understand as well, is because there's a lot of websites out there that have got drone content or drone images. And these people, like there's Shutterstock and iStock Photo, which are not drone websites, but they've got some drone content. What we do is we say to them, in some cases, these guys and girls are losing up to 70, 80% in commission. In our system, it's 7% commission onto the Soar platform, and that's if they even want to sell it. In some cases, they're actually free to distribute that content for no charge if that's what they choose. So that allows us to actually upload more content than the regular drone company as well, like the normal drone platform. So that's a key differentiator.
Okay, gotcha.
I was going to say, I suppose the other key differentiator between traditional image sharing sites and our approach is that we approach it from a map. So your initial view when you come into our website is, what is the coverage of the Earth? Where are the images that have already been uploaded? And that's definitely going to help, say, the undiscovered drone operator, because like the guy on Instagram, he may have 1,000, 5,000 followers, and so he's got credit. People want to download his images, and that may make it so that his images just stand out. But we give pretty much everybody a fair go in that they can either go to areas that are in high demand, so they know that people are going to be looking for their images, or go to areas that have poor coverage that probably are in high demand. It's just that they haven't been accessed, and that there's probably a market for them.
Okay, so and regarding data, you correctly mentioned that these drones, they collect everything is in HD now, and the data is pretty heavy. And how are you going to process and store this data? And there also information about your partnership with Alibaba Cloud Service. What kind of partnership is that? And could you also describe how you're going to store data, how much can it cost, and what kind of stuff you're going to use?
Well, first of all, I mean, in terms of cost, I can talk about that later, but maybe a good entryway to that is, Chris, maybe you can talk about what is off-chain storage and what is on-chain storage in the Soar system.
Yeah, I'd love to. So as your audience who are very blockchain savvy are aware, the blockchain is terrific for certain things, and then it's not so great at other things. And one of the things it's not great at is mass file storage, mass data storage. That's not a job for the blockchain. So what we've developed is an on-chain, off-chain solution. Essentially what happens is the actual raw data itself is stored off-chain. It's stored in cloud service providers like Alibaba Cloud, which we're really excited to get on board with. And on-chain what we store is the the metadata about that information, the fingerprint, the geohash, the defining information about that imagery, and then a reference to where that lives off-chain. And there's a security handshake that occurs between the blockchain and our serverless functions running on Alibaba Cloud, which basically validates that data has been purchased and is accessible.
I think maybe it might be good, Chris, as well, if you could just highlight a little bit more technical detail, just maybe half a minute on the smart contract and the payloads and that information, because that is on-chain, and I think maybe the viewers might want to know a little bit about that in very heavy terms.
So we store a number of defining values inside of the blockchain, like in a single transaction of uploading a listing. Those are things like the file hash, so the MD5 file hash, the fingerprint of the file, the geohash, the information about where that lives in the world, and a few other key points like title, description, tags to make them easier for searching. We also store a payload of JSON, which is just a payload of information, which also helps in rectifying that image onto the map. The really critical one, though, is the information about where that file is actually stored off-chain. So essentially what we've done is we've decoupled the platform from the blockchain from the file storage. So they all act as a bit of a pyramid that are connected but not tightly joined together.
Yeah, look, I think this is really important as well, because it goes into Vlad's question with regards to Alibaba. We chose Alibaba, and it's an incredible partnership because we're getting access to some incredible technology for Alibaba. And as Alibaba grows, they've got machine learning capabilities and AI technology, which is advancing very quickly. But the other thing with Alibaba, which is very important, is Alibaba storage can be accessed in every country in the world, unlike Microsoft or Amazon or even Google. So we really want to have an inclusive community system where people, say, for example, in Russia, Ukraine, Iran, and in places of South America can actually onboard content. But by no means we're actually limiting people to just Alibaba, okay? Alibaba Cloud is a partner, and it's great to have them on board. However, if the individual drone operator wants to use Dropbox, if they want to use Microsoft Azure or AWS from Amazon, they're more than welcome to. We do not limit them. In fact, this is one of the biggest powers that we've got here, because we're highly flexible in our platform, and we're very, very inclusive for the community.
Okay, maybe to try to elaborate that on a little bit more, there's a system in place called the sponsorship, the Sky Sponsor Program. So essentially what that is, the sponsor acts as a buffer between the average drone operator and the blockchain. So the average drone operator who comes onto the system is just able to drag and drop their file on, and as far as they're concerned, it's done. They don't have to know about the blockchain. They don't need to to go through any special, signing transactions or anything like that. The the Sky Sponsor assists them with that. For our larger organizations like our B2B that were mentioned earlier, they're able to come on board and say, well, I'm not interested in being sponsored because I know my content's good and I'm willing to pay for the hosting of that rather than give a sponsor a commission in the sale. So for those guys, they're able to come on board and use their own cloud hosting or their own internal hosting if they want to, and they can sponsor themselves essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so the drone user captures the video, upload it somewhere where he wants, then you store data about ownership. Yeah, this guy, he is still the owner of this video, and the data about this ownership is stored on blockchain. Also, there is data about reference where this video is actually on server. It can be changed, yes, some way, or how it works. For example, person save data on Dropbox and wants to move to Alibaba service or somewhere else, Google Drive. And actually, this data can be changed, at the level of blockchain.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, yeah, we just essentially write another. You need to write another transaction into the blockchain, but that basically acts as a delta, acts as a difference that this file is now changed to this position.
Mm-hmm. But all drones, they're different, and you need to process this data to glue the pictures, because for example, here on your table are two drones. They're absolutely different. Some of them are small, some of they shoot 4K, some HD, and how it works, how you're going to glue this data to create a super map which is consistent.
It doesn't. That's a good question. It doesn't actually matter because no matter what drone operator or drone manufacturer that you actually obtain this data from, the firmware inside this system is it has files or metadata, which is very, very similar. So it has information relating to positional accuracy, also the type, the specifications for the camera. So this allows us to be able to use this content to be placing it over the super map. So to us, we are once again an inclusive system. So I think we've actually a video which is called the Soar Quad Tree. And you're more than welcome to play that, Vlad, if you want for your audience with the Soar Quad Tree.
Thank you.
That actually shows you how our system, that is our point of difference, really, because it allows someone, and you can see it in the video, you can go from a satellite view of the entire world, you zoom in, and then you go to a higher resolution, and then you go to what you see on Google Maps, and then you can choose to go even higher resolution down to the drone. So what you're seeing with Soar is you can actually see the entire zoom level, okay? Whereas in other mapping systems, you're constrained with either the highest resolution or the lowest resolution, which is pulled back. So, and we've built this through trial and error for the last couple of years. And we invite people to go look at the video and actually use our tester to see exactly how we've done it and how we've planned for it.
Yeah, this is a good video. Actually, this is an appropriate part to show our subscribers it right now. Let's check this video. And so you can see that the quality of video is pretty impressive in terms of how it's much better than what we usually see in Google Maps. But some of industries like agro or transportation, they need not just to see visually, but they need different types of mapping, some spectral mapping, for example. Is there any minimal requirement for drone for its content, which will provide you with the opportunity not only create regular Google Map, but something more technical?
Yeah, look, that's fine. I mean, these drones that you see on the table here, I mean, this thing is about, $600, Darren? Mm-hmm. 600 Australian dollars. And how much is that big one?
Oh, well, they're cheap now, about $550, yeah. And that one's out of stock, so it's...
Well, how much is something like that? How much is that rough?
If you want to get the level 4, the Phantom 4, they're about $2,000.
$2,000, right? So there you go. I don't know where we got $550 from. But okay, so but what we're trying to say here is that they're getting cheaper and cheaper. And these cameras, what's actually really exciting is that there is a lot of accessories and post-sale hardware that is being, coming onto the market, which allows people to get that multispectral imagery, that highly technical and specific data. So that's not too far away where you can actually get one of these drones and actually go buy off the shelf a different camera and you can put it in there. So, for example, a farmer wants to see particular species of vegetation on his farm and he wants to know how they're going. So he uses the Soar system to get a very regional view of his farm, because here in Australia, for example, farms could be sometimes 50 kilometres big. So he uses the satellite imagery, which is going onto the system, which is great. Then he goes, I see an area, a smaller area, which I think I've got a problem. Maybe I need to see very high spectral imagery over that area at very high resolution. So he would set a sky bounty, as Chris outlined before, and someone like Darren, which has access to one of these drones that has this particular hardware, can come along and fly and capture that area. So is that a good way of describing it?
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. And certainly Chris can speak a little bit more about, and he has mentioned the metadata that is saved as part of the images. And it's pretty intense. I mean, in terms of the number of parameters that go into the metadata, off the top of my head, it's at least 30 parameters, and you can, of course, add to that. So within those parameters, the name of the camera, the name of the drone, the latitude, the longitude, things like the quality of the positional information, and as well, furthermore, even the way that if the image was processed. And so that's also going to allow the consumer who could potentially go in and filter through saying, I'm not looking for enhanced images. I want the raw images so that I can enhance them or process them for my liking. So all of that information can be written to the transaction, and that's definitely what gives credit to the supermap, because we're mining that information to build the supermap itself.
Yeah, Darren's exactly right. We store all the information about the drone and the camera that's used to capture the imagery into the blockchain as well. And again, that can be filtered. But in terms of the actual the technical requirements of the system, there's no real difference between these image formats. They're basically just a different flag that's been set to say that, this is multispectral or this is infrared.
It's becoming consumer-based as well, because so as Darren mentioned before, a drone that had a fantastic camera 2 years ago and cost $20,000, next year that drone will be available for probably $1,000, and you could buy the cameras off the shelf as well. So that's a really exciting opportunity that's around the corner as well.
Okay, so the consumer can order some kind of content. For example, the company see that there is a guy who has access to agro territory, and can also order another data, another kind of communicate to drone user. Can the company communicate through your platform with drone users? So there is only a way to buy something is already done.
I can take that question. So one of the systems that we're building is called the Sky Tasker system, and that's essentially, it's a smart contract built to acquire a specific kind of imagery. So that might be one of the examples I use is I might want somebody to come to my wedding day to take some nice photos of the wedding ceremony and so on. And in that case, I put the Sky Task out there. And I'd say, this is about how much I want to pay for it. Somebody else can accept that. And once I have received ownership of that data, that money is released from the smart contract to the drone operator. So it's a nice little add-on onto the system. It's not the primary role of the platform of what we're building the platform for, but it's kind of like just a happy accident that we're able to offer these kind of services as well. Okay.
When you say that they send money, you mean they send tokens, yeah?
They send tokens, yeah.
Okay. Is there any motivation for them to hold these tokens? I mean, there is any requirement to hold tokens to have access to your service?
Yeah, Chris, I mean, maybe we could talk about a little bit of the content that we talked about in the meeting yesterday. I don't know if that's if we should go into that, but I think we should maybe touch upon it, because one of the things is that these tokens, the SkyMap tokens, are effectively, we're commoditizing the entire world by building this super map of the world. So let's just completely think about the world like this, okay? Not every place in the world is as important as every other place at any given time. So for example, in a city, there's cars, there's houses, there's parks, there's trees, there may be a beach, there may be factories. There's a lot of things happening every day in a city, okay? So the content that's created over that city will actually be worth more, okay, than the middle of the Australian desert. There's nothing in the middle of the Australian desert that is valuable for it to be imaged every single day. So the SkyMap token, if you're a drone operator or a satellite imagery provider, you really want to get content over areas which is, like an urban area where there is a lot of activity. However, what actually happens is that, let's pretend that there's a mining company discovers gold in the desert, but there's no imagery for that area. So drone operators can go out there and actually will be the first to stake a claim, if you like, for that imagery over that particular gold mining area, and the gold mining company will be able to pay them using SkyMap tokens. So obviously that in itself, it encourages people to hold their tokens, because after a period of time, maybe another area of the world goes up in value in terms of demand. And it's really supply and demand driven, Chris.
Yes.
I mean, maybe do you want to talk about that, maybe a staking model and how important that is in that model?
Sure. So the question was, why should I hold on to my SkyMap tokens? There's a number of reasons. So the first and probably the easiest to understand is eventually we plan on placing a store onto the platform. So the idea behind that is you can passively generate income, passively generate SkyMap tokens with your content over time, and then eventually cash that out by upgrading to a new drone from the store. So that's probably one of the easiest ones to understand. There's possibly a more difficult one for me to explain, and the concept is still in its early days at the moment, but essentially it's like a location-based staking system. So as Amir mentioned, one of the driving one of the driving economic factors of the system is that different places of the world are going to have different value of drone imagery associated with them. And that's a pure function of the supply and demand. So if there's a lot of demand for imagery in an area, a lot of imagery, the price is going to go up, which encourages more people to come in and create demand in that, create supply in that area. And again, all that's handled by smart contracts. The staking model is essentially something we've come up with just in the last couple of days, and what that is essentially is it allows you to place your SkyMap tokens into a part of the world. You don't spend them, you just sort of stake them into a part of the world. And in return for staking those SkyMap tokens, for holding those SkyMap tokens, you essentially receive a dividend of the sales that have occurred in that area. So it's exactly. So it's not a large amount of share from a sales transaction, but it's enough that if I've got a good holding of tokens, they're going to appreciate in value.
So yeah, it's one way that we can commoditize every pixel in the world. So if you use up your Soar SkyMap tokens, you can never get them back again for that particular area. And the only way you can get back in is to actually pay a higher price. So the price goes up. And it's actually a really ingenious way of thinking about it, because the world is constantly changing. It just depends which part of the world is changing at which particular part of time. That's the formula for making sure that people hold it.
Okay, thank you. This is really important to mention about the staking mechanism, because now, market is definitely not in a good mood, and people feel like a little bit disappointed about utility structure, clear utility structure, and something like staking mechanism is really useful. Yeah, I understand your model. The higher the demand for tokens, the less is supply, and the price should grow and motivate users to keep their token against the background as well of the staking mechanism. This is great. So I understand the blockchain usage, application of blockchain, your project it's clear in terms of keeping data about ownership of videos and the storage and all other kinds of data. But why did you choose Ethereum? It's not the fastest blockchain now. Why not Neo Yotta?
Over to you, Chris. This is a hot topic in our office every day.
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to come right out and say is that we intentionally built our platform to be very decoupled from this. So if you can imagine our tech stack as a pyramid, the smart contracts and the bit that's on Ethereum is just a little tip of the pyramid. We did this deliberately when we first started looking at developing the project and developing the prototype and the MVP on the testnet, because we knew that we were eventually going to have to move away from Ethereum. So we're having deep discussions with Chain and Neo at the moment about swapping over to those platforms. But at the end of the day, from my chair as a technical position, it's not really a big problem going for, it's just changing a few lines of code and, pointing to a new place. But essentially, the reason we developed on Ethereum is because it's the most mature and it's the most stable, and it's one that I knew that I was able to deliver a product on top of.
Yeah, look, I think this whole issue, I mean, this is a question that comes up with a lot of projects, right? And we see our Soar as an independent platform, really. There are some really exciting protocols out there. Chris mentioned two of them, but there's other very exciting protocols out there. And I think there seems to be, I mean, we're in a bit of a bear market at the moment, but there seems to be a bit of protocol fatigue because every single protocol keeps telling us that they're going to deliver this incredible system, which is going to have high TPS speeds, and it's going to be very cheap, and the gas is going to be very, very low. And also, we have to think about this as well, and the audience will probably know this, is this AMA has been conducted with people that know the crypto space, they know the blockchain. The end users of many of these products are actually going to be everyday individuals which have never even heard of blockchain. So although some blockchain projects might be great, how the everyday individual interacts with them, potentially, I mean, look at the problems and I guess that MetaMask solves, but the other issues that it has as well is we've got to look at this as a complete whole picture and see where is the protocol space going to be in, say, 6 months' time. The other big clear thing also to the audience and Vlad as well is that we've already built our testnet. Our mainnet is only 4 to 5 months away, probably sooner because we're actually ahead of schedule, which is incredible because we've already built something great like this before. So we don't want to wait for other protocols to tell us, hey, why don't you wait and in 1 year's time we've got a protocol coming out. Ethereum already exists. Sure, it's slow. The gas fees are bouncing around all over the shop, but we think that our product is going to be on the market much sooner than their protocols their mainnets is going to be released. So we just want to keep our options open, I think. Is that the...
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So you're blockchain agnostic. You can change it in a year, in 2 years.
To a certain level.
Yeah,
if we were to release our mainnet today on Ethereum, the data that's stored on that mainnet is going to be stored on Ethereum. If we decide we're going to swap over to Neo or Blockchain or one of the others, there's going to be that bridge because they're on different blockchains. So there'd be a fairly not complicated but fairly time-consuming and expensive task of migrating that data back from one blockchain over to the other one. It's not something I'm really too concerned about, but again, the real guts of the issue, swapping in terms of swapping over to one of those other blockchains is not a problem. Migrating data is a bit more of a problem, but yeah, to summarize, I needed to be able to deliver something that I knew was going to function and I knew that people were going to be able to use. So for me, the choice was to go with Ethereum and to sort of bide my time and wait for the other options.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I checked your website, your product, and that is what makes you different from many other products and projects who don't have anything ready yet. So, but could you, for those who are not familiar with your website and the product, could you describe what's already done and what is testnet, how it works now, and what's going to happen and change in 4 or 5 months when the mainnet will be launched?
So what might be a good idea is maybe Chris can outline the testnet and maybe Darren and I would then talk about a little bit about the satellite imagery and the other partners that are coming on board. So Chris,
sure. So right now we support one of our 3 data formats, which is images. Our second one off the bat, which we're developing at the moment, is the aerial mapping. So that's the actual top-down looking at data as a layer on top of the underlying satellite imagery. And the third file format is the video. So the video is like a path that's taken as the drone was flying through and capturing content. Full upload support, so anybody can come onto the testnet right now and provided there's some onboarding instructions for installing MetaMask, and we've tried to keep that as simple as possible. And once they've done that, it should only take a couple of minutes. They can drag their content from their drone directly over onto the testnet and upload it. And that'll then be available after a couple of minutes of transaction time because the testnet's relatively quick.
And that's right now, anyone can go to, it's demo.soar.earth.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to our website, just type that in, and most of the crypto community will already have MetaMask installed onto Chrome anyway. They can log on there and they can start using the system. Sorry, for the people that don't actually have access to MetaMask, that's okay as well, because if you go to demo.soar.earth, you can actually see bunch of drone imagery that's actually uploaded already anyway. So you can go there and actually interact with it. You can download it. You can zoom in, and you can see who's created it. And we've got some really incredible imagery already there as well.
Yeah, I think there's about 350 images at the moment.
Yeah, it's constantly growing.
Constantly growing. But just the average user, any end user that knows nothing about the blockchain or the crypto market's able to come onto the platform and to zoom around on the map and see all the really cool drone imagery that's available.
So as a follow-on from that, we've got a very, very exciting development happening next week. We've been working with a major global provider of satellite imagery. I don't want to say the name so soon, but it's huge, and they have been very kind enough to give access to all their satellite imagery. And this satellite imagery is going to be updated every day for any part of the world. And as of next week, every person that has access to the Soar demo website can actually go in there and download satellite imagery from any part of the world for free, no charge at all. And we want to really demonstrate to the broader community how powerful this is. So maybe, I guess, Darren, you could probably give us maybe a couple of lines about how easy it is to be able to use that and who will be the beneficiary of that satellite imagery as well as the drone content.
Definitely. I think in the office, I spend a lot of time just having fun on the test net because coming from a mapping background, it lets you sort of see the world get mapped, in front of your own eyes. If you have your own images and you have them in different places, you can put them up there, get a sense of where they're supposed to be, and even for the casual user who's a drone enthusiast who likes to take more of the artistic images, more of the sort of, I call them trophy shots, single shots, stage shots, he can get a feel of where those images are and how they fit in to the space of the Earth. But I think we mentioned earlier the Quadtree video that I believe is going to be part of this presentation is that you can effectively zoom from outer space to a square on the ground. It's a few centimeters square, and I think the classic example, and I'm going to steal it from Amir, is that when everybody first launched Google Earth, they got excited. They found where their house was, and they said, "I'm going to zoom in to my backyard," or "I'm going to zoom in to where I went on holidays." And while that works, you're left at an altitude of a couple thousand meters or something like that. So you don't get the full picture. Well, drones are virtually going to give you that resolution as if you were holding, they can give you the resolution as if you're holding your phone, taking a picture, just holding out your hand. And then Soar's going to give you that capability to either zoom infinitely from space to Earth or the other way around. And so it opens quite a few avenues in terms of usability for industry. They're going to be able to get the bigger picture, but then they're also going to be able to zoom in.
One of the, sorry to interrupt you, Darren, is one of the really good user examples is going to be, there's been events around the world which are constantly changing. Like, for example, there's been forest fires in California. There's been, I think, cyclones and storms in southern India. And then we've got this volcano in Hawaii as well. So with the news that we're going to be releasing next week with this satellite imagery provider, we'll be able to have all that content there. So how does this affect our mainnet is, this mainnet is, like we said, 4 or 5 months away, but probably, I should actually tell these guys to stop working as hard because we initially thought our mainnet would be almost 1 year away. Now it's 4 or 5 months away. It may even be released before Christmas as well. So this is really exciting news for us.
Great. So is that really that simple? For example, some person who's not specialist in blockchain doesn't care. Just a drone enthusiast who's doesn't have purposes to actively monetize, to have a drone usage is like a core business. Is that really that simple? You just upload content, install MetaMask, provide the Soar with the private key from wallet, Ethereum wallet. But you also need to map somehow to let the system know where exactly this shot was done. The video.
That information, all drone operators, when every single image that's taken from these drones already has that information. We just take that information that already exists. We are not doing anything special with those images. So the drone operator that takes one photo and they don't do any processing, they can still use the Soar system.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of trivialised some of the tech work that we've done.
Sorry. I'm trying to make it simple, but it's actually much harder.
We read information from the drones and from the image that the drone has taken. We'll just capture some metadata from that and use that. When somebody uploads, they drag the file into the platform, and the very next thing they're presented with is here is the location that the drone has said that it was taken from. We give them an opportunity then to fine-tune that position to basically say, just use just some like rotate tools and some move tools and some squishing tools just to line it up onto the map exactly as it says. But the entire process is extraordinarily simple. I mean, some of the very early hallway testing that we've done has been, I don't need to tell anybody anything. They just pick it up, drag it over, and then they start moving their things around and the photo's done. After that, we do ask them to put in some social media kind of things like title and descriptions and hashtags and things like that, just to make the image more searchable in the system. But it literally is as easy as that. Installing MetaMask, because of the sponsor program, the Sky sponsor program, there's no need to sign your transaction. The sponsor does that for you automatically. So you install MetaMask to have a place for your SkyMap tokens to come back into when it's been sold, but you don't need to, buy Ethereum for gas or to really even know what the blockchain is or how it works to be able to use the system and enjoy it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, let's talk about the pragmatic part of ICO. As far as I understand, you're planning crowd sale at the end of August, or what do you think about market conditions? Probably going to postpone or going to right now, and you're going to raise 20 million, around that.
Yeah, look, by the way, the first thing is just a quick clarification there. Our public sale is aiming towards the end of September, actually. Our pre-sale is coming to a close very, very soon. So we've been lucky enough to actually receive funding and investment from some of the world's biggest blockchain investment companies, such as JIR, Node Capital, Grand Shores Ventures, and H Capital. And we've got a strategic alliance also with CryptoDiffer as well. And with CryptoDiffer, we're working very, very closely with them in building a strategy of getting through these market conditions. I mean, we know we're in a bear market. We know that the price of Ethereum is, shaky at best. However, we like to look at it and say, look, the community's out there. Compare us to other drone companies, other ICO companies and blockchain companies. We've said what we're going to do. We've already done it. We're ahead of schedule. And really, if you look at the partnerships that we've created to date, with some exciting partnerships coming up, we are more than confident to being involved and going forward, and we all know a bull market is going to be around the corner as well. So we want to be the best positioned at that. The other exciting thing is that although we're doing I think it's just under $20 million is the raise, we're in the pre-sale, we're doing extremely well in the pre-sale. And we think that our public sale is probably going to be sold out as well. So we do encourage our community to make sure that they do register and they're part of that community, because the staking mechanisms that we've just talked about during this AMA are very, very important. And once that catches on like fire, it's going to be very, very popular. And we are not looking at the crypto community as an exclusive. We're looking at the broader community that sits outside of the crypto and the blockchain space, and how they can use Soar. The other exciting thing is, Vlad, that I'd like to share with our AMA audience now is that most ICOs, you buy tokens, okay, which is great, which is really good. But in our ICO in the public sale, we're also giving the opportunity for our community to get drones for free. So we've partnered up with some drone manufacturers around the world, and depending on what the conditions are like as well, we're going to be sending out free drones to the community. So this is obviously it's a great marketing idea, because you buy some SkyMap tokens and you get one of these awesome DJI drones for free of charge. But what is that also doing is some crypto community will be getting these drones for the very, very first time, and they're thinking to themselves, wow, not only have I invested in a company that is doing something cool, but I can now go outside and take some drone imagery and load it onto the Soar system. So they become a part of the system as well. And that to us is very, very important.
Yeah, this is great. Okay. Thank you very much for this May session. Thank you for this opportunity to ask questions and have a good time. So we're looking forward to news and great partnerships you're going to announce, and keep in touch. I think this project is really interesting. You addressed the most important questions regarding token mechanism, regarding the whole idea, how the drones, all these little things most of us have and use, how they can be combined with the blockchain. So thank you for this chance. Thank you for your time, Amir, Chris, Darren, and see you later, probably in other May sessions. And I wish you successful ICO and all the best to your project and your further progress.
Thank you so much, Vlad, and thank you to the community as well. We appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Thanks so much. Thanks, Vlad.
Cheers. Catch you.